I want to give a brief word about this idea and concept of submission, found both here and in Ephesians. It's in the context of women or wives submitting to their husbands, and doing so in order to exhibit the gospel. This is a concept that's filled with a lot of tension, as we usually picture a domineering and abusive husband exacting his every will and whim over his wife. However, this is not what Paul intended, nor is this an accurate picture of what is supposed to happen in marriage. When God first created Adam and Eve, he did create Adam first, and he gave Adam the right to name his wife. This bespeaks authority. And then when Adam and Eve sinned, God gives curses for each of them, catered to their identity and their significance. For man, his identity is often found in his work, so his curse has to do with his labor. However, women tend to find their identity in relationships, and so her curse is for her children, pain in childbirth, and for her husband. It says, your husband will rule over you, and your desire will be for him. So there's this idea of something that was God ordained and beautiful is now going to be marred with pain, marred with tension, marred with conflict. God established man as the head over the household. However, it becomes a conflict because now man will rule over his wife. So now there's going to be pain in this very image that God first created. Now, when this works well, when husbands love their wives as Christ loved the church, and when wives submit to their husbands, when this is done well, both are able to flourish. This is actually how God intended it. And he intended it for the purpose of expressing the gospel. See, he didn't intend it to communicate that all men are superior to all women. In fact, this is a command for wives and husbands, not men and women. And it is a command for wives and husbands because marriage is a place where the gospel is exhibited better than almost anywhere else. See, we have analogies for the gospel, father and children, master and slaves. But husbands and wives have the ability to express the gospel to the world in a way that no other relationship does. Because in marriage, there is a oneness that happens where there are two entities that become one, that become united. So this is an example of our relationship with Jesus. As we believe in Jesus, over and over, Scripture says that he is in us and we are in him. The two are united into one entity. And so the purpose of the marriage is to show off the gospel, that Jesus is the head who loves and serves his body. And then the body submits, the church submits to Jesus as that head. And so in marriage, husbands and wives are to show off this beautiful truth of the gospel. And men do so as they are the head. And when they do this, we actually, as women, love it. We flourish. We want our husbands to do what Christ did for the church. So what did Christ do for the church? He rescues the church. He speaks truth to the church. He leads the church. As females, we want to be rescued. There's something in us that wants to call out to our husband when we are in need. As females, we also need someone to speak truth to us so that we will believe it. Truth about ourselves, about who we are, about our identity, about lies that we've believed. We need someone to speak truth to us. We also want somebody to lead us. We want somebody to take the reins. We don't want to have to make all the decisions on our own. We don't want to have to do everything by ourselves. And so when men lead the way Christ leads the church, women flourish. And when wives submit to their husbands and respect their husbands are able to lead in a way that they weren't able to lead if their wife doesn't follow. And so when both are doing this, there is a mutual flourishing that happens in marriage. And in the bigger picture, there is a gospel presented to the world that isn't presented in any other relationship arena. So when Paul gives this gentle command for wives to submit to their husbands, first we need to know it's not all women to all men. The Bible is clear and presents counterculturally an image of women that they are equal. They are equal in sharing in the gospel, equal in sharing in the inheritance of Christ. They are equal in being able to, like Jesus talked to women. He went out of his way to talk to the woman at the well. He went out of his way to find out about the woman who had been bleeding for 30 years. Jesus elevated women like his mother and Mary Magdalene to a status that was countercultural. Paul does the same thing as he continually talks about Priscilla and Aquila as leaders of the church. He talks about ladies like Phoebe, who was a courier for the letter of the book of Romans. Paul is constantly elevating women to have equal authority, equal sharing in the gospel. So this isn't a measure of men being superior to women. This is wives submitting to their husbands in order to show off the gospel, in order to portray something true about who Jesus is and about what the church is supposed to do. When we see it this way, there will be mutual flourishing, and the gospel will be expressed to the world that so desperately needs it.